It's been over 6 years since Super Mario Maker 2 came out for the Nintendo Switch. Going into 2026, we now have a brand new Nintendo console, a different style of 2D Mario, and with it all, a festering hunger to see the Super Mario Maker series brought back for a third game. Since there is quite a bit of speculation suggesting that Nintendo should be working on a Mario Maker 3, that brings up the obvious question of what exactly this game would look like. In comparison to its 6-year-old predecessor, what would it add, and what would it improve on? So in this video, we're going to be doing a deep dive of all of that, to try and figure out what's in store for us in Super Mario Maker 3. Let's get right into it. The first step of doing this is, of course, to look at the first two Mario Makers, figure out what exactly was improved on and added between the first and the second, and what still needs to be added and improved on for the third game. Going all the way back to 2015, Mario Maker 1 was really just a prototype for the series, an experiment to see how the Mario community would use a level maker. The result was that people were able to get really creative with it, which was good, but there was two main problems. Number one, the game lacked a ton of classic Mario features that you could find throughout the games, which was a big limiter on makers. And number two, because of the game's open upload feature, a lot of the levels you'd play online from other makers around the world were really bad. Fast forward 4 years later, and the Nintendo Switch would receive Mario Maker 2. This game would expand greatly on all of the things that felt unfinished in Mario Maker 1. Things like giving the airship theme a unique enemy, or giving the Wigglers their level theme. More boss options to promote variety over the overused Bowser and Bowser Jr., vertical levels, lava, water, and even poison functionality, slopes, big coins, on-off blocks, all things that felt like they were missing from the first game. Along with patching up Mario Maker 1's holes, the second game also just added a ton of Mario features to make it stand apart from its predecessor. From the nighttime level variants to the entire 3D world style, Mario Maker 2 strived to break the limiter that makers were feeling in the first game, allowing for so many different types of levels to the point where almost every level you came across is something completely unique. So with Mario Maker 2 feeling a lot more complete than Mario Maker 1, what could the third game possibly do to expand on the second game? What would be the reason for the existence of Mario Maker 3? What would Super Mario Maker 3's mission statement be? So in order to establish this, we need to talk adventure modes and bad levels. The second biggest issue with Mario Maker 1 that didn't really get improved on going into the second game was that there was still so many bad levels being pumped into the online level browser. And not only a lot of nearly unplayable garbage, but a significant lack of levels that you would ever want to play in both of the game's adventure modes. Mario Maker 1 introduced a game mode called the 100 Mario Challenge. It was a really fun and interesting idea. In this game mode, you'd play through a certain amount of randomly selected user-made levels grouped together based on their difficulty, with a starting 100 Marios or lives on the line. The catch was that in order for this game mode to actually be fun, you needed to be given levels that were 1, good, and 2, specifically made with this game mode in mind. Levels that are similar to traditional Nintendo-made 2D Mario levels, with cleverly placed 1-ups and coins, with runtimes that aren't over 5 minutes long, that are not ridiculously hard or luck-based or gimmicky. The problem is that Mario Maker allows for so many different kinds of levels to be made that are entirely unfriendly to this live-based mode. Speedrun, task, troll, precision, red coin, pick a path, boss rush, music, auto, puzzle, spot the difference. These kinds of levels, while fine on their own, are not what you want to play when you have a certain amount of lives on the line. And on top of all of that, you do not want to play levels that are really bad, of which there are nearly an unlimited amount of. The way that Nintendo decided to deal with this in the first game was simply by giving the players a skip button. Any level you don't want to play, you can just skip it with no lives lost. However, this was really just a lazy way to combat the onslaught of adventure toxic levels, not that it's even necessarily a good solution. Sometimes it's hard to figure out if a level is going to be horrible for your adventure before you've spent a ton of lives on it. Other times you'll skip a level just to get another bad one, and this will happen for as long as the game decides to give you bad levels, which, given how many of them there are, can happen for a long time. And just in general, having the ability to skip levels just doesn't feel very good. It feels like cheating, and you could very well just use it because the level is too hard rather than it being bad. It's why people love to do no-skip runs of these adventure modes, but if you can't skip, then you're completely confronted with the game's collection of badly designed levels. Super Mario Maker 2 only did some very minor things to try and fix this issue, with its successor to the 100 Mario Challenge, Endless Mode. They added big coins as yet another reward that makers could place in secret areas, bridging the gap between a single coin and a 1-up. Scroll Stop was a very nice feature that was perfect for creating secret rooms. They added tags that users could add to their own levels. Levels tagged with standard, short and sweet, and themed would be more likely to be chosen for Endless Mode, while levels with any of the rest would not. They also improved on the star system by adding a like, meh, and boo rating system, so that most of the really bad levels would hopefully never appear in someone's run. But all of these things only slightly mitigated the issue. You'd still get plenty of levels that you would never want to play in an adventure mode. Tags can't cover everything, you can still get an 8-minute boss rush level or a frame-perfect trump jump level, and even the tags don't work 100% of the time. But the other big issue is that the majority of casual makers still weren't practicing good level design, like by using coins and placing secret 1-ups, because there was just no upfront reason to. The Endless Mode, in comparison to 100 Mario, placed a bit more emphasis on lives in that you had a lot less than 100, but a lot of people just never think about making their level specifically for Endless players. They're only thinking about how it looks on their user page or in the level search, where people will only play the level by itself. And that's where Super Worlds come into play. One of the last updates to Super Mario Maker 2 added a completely new game mode called Super Worlds. It allows you to take your own levels and arrange them in a world. You make the layout, set the starting amount of lives from 1 to 99, and upload it for anyone to try. This game mode could do what the 100 Mario Challenge and Endless Mode could not, which was confronting makers with the importance of good level design, the likes of which you'd find in an actual Mario game. It gives makers an incentive to think about rewards for exploration in the form of coins and 1-ups, while at the same time highlighting why it's bad to spam such things, as it could lessen the intended difficulty of the world. It highlights the types of levels that are fun to play in a live-based mode, innately discourages the ones that are not, levels that are trolly, gimmicky, luck-based, and/or long. Being able to make a world with your levels gives makers actual motivation, not just for creating levels, but making good levels. So finally, Super Worlds seem to be the key to getting players to learn and practice actual level design. But there is a major catch about Mario Maker 2's Super Worlds, and that's that the game mode just feels really unfinished. It was already a very late addition to the game, also one of the last, but it lacked a lot of features that would have been great for teaching level design. Even functionality-wise, it's pretty lacking. The only overworld style available is Super Mario World. 1-up houses get very repetitive, with there only being 3 games to choose from, none of which are customizable or particularly fun. You can make branching paths, but no secret exits. Star coins were never added, the ultimate secret collectible that could be used to unlock different paths on the map. You can't put world skips, there's no built-in world level counter, you can only place 4 levels in a world. There isn't even a world browser like there is for courses, you just get this scuffed layout where you're shown 10 worlds and can hit a button to get another random 10. You can't search for most popular or sort by difficulty. And of course, the button to play this mode is shoved in the corner of the already stuffed course world. Super Worlds feels like an afterthought of an already thought out game. It has the very rudimentary potential to incentivize creators to make better levels, but also a major lack of customization and features, and the fact that it was added well after the game's biggest marketing push. It makes sense, in retrospective, why Nintendo decided to immediately ditch Super Worlds and Mario Maker 2 altogether, and save the potential that Super Worlds implied for a completely different game. So that's what I think Super Mario Maker 3's main focus and improvement on Mario Maker 2 is going to be, the full expansion on Super Worlds. It is exactly what the 100 Mario Challenge and Endless modes were trying to be all along, modes that fully inspire makers to make good levels. Perhaps the game could even be called Mario Maker World, following shortly after the world-focused Mario Kart World. So here are the 3 biggest things that I'd like to see from a fully fleshed out Super Worlds game mode. Number 1. Star Coins. As I mentioned before, they are the perfect optional collectible that would open up so much possibility and inspiration for secrets. How they could be spent is like the Star Coin signs in New Super Mario Bros. Or green stars in Super Mario 3D World. So either they could unlock new paths, or a certain amount of them will be required to unlock the final castle. Just the idea of being able to 100% someone's level, or even someone's entire world, is really exciting. Number 2 is secret exits and world skips. In the new Super Mario Bros. Games, some levels have secret alternate flagpoles that unlock a different path in the overworld. It would be so interesting if, in Mario Maker 3, you're able to decide if you want a second flagpole in any given level. This second flagpole could just be added to the end of the subworld, which is normally just a dead end. Beating the level with the second flagpole would then unlock an alternate path, which could skip parts of the world, but could also lead to a world-skipping canon. This feature would work even if you're just playing a standalone level. Beating the level with the second goal is still beating the level, it's just a different way to do it. To upload a level with 2 exits, makers would just need to beat the level both ways. So along with star coins, secret exits would be yet another incentive for players to design non-linear levels with exploration and secrets. And the third biggest thing I'd want from a fully fleshed out world maker is just generally more customization. Different styles for the overworld, more than a 4-level limit per world. I think a Toad House maker would be really interesting, but if not, then just better 1-up houses. It'd be interesting if power-ups carried over between levels, and maybe there could even be an extra power-up slot, or a power-up inventory. This obviously would cause some issues for some level designs, so perhaps you can choose which levels allow the use of power-ups from previous levels, and which ones don't. I think the size of a single world should be increased, even if just by a little. A 7x4 grid is pretty limiting in terms of path design. There's only so many overworld variations you can make with it. Perhaps there could just be a free cam button to see what's ahead. Honestly, you could come up with a ton of ideas for a fully fleshed out super worlds. These are just the biggest things that I personally felt were missing from Mario Maker 2's Incomplete Worlds mode. I can already think of so many creative ways to use them. All of this would, of course, result in the best adventure mode of the 3 games, with there being so many levels being made specifically for a life-based mode. What could be really interesting, given the addition of star coins and secret exits, is that the third variant of the random level adventure mode could feature really cool randomly generated worlds. With levels selected based on difficulty like they were before, each adventure could have an entirely randomized map layout. Branching paths strung together based on if levels have secret exits or not, star coin blockades priced accordingly to the amount of star coins in the world. Okay, maybe I'm going a bit off the rails here. At the very least, what I'd personally like to see is a mode that's more like the 100 Mario Challenge than Endless mode. I think everyone sort of collectively agrees that having a goal at the end of the adventure mode is a lot more fun than just going until you lose. Maybe it'll be the 100 Mario Challenge, but you need to collect a certain amount of star coins to unlock the final castle. That'd be pretty cool, no? Regardless, what's going to be the best part of Mario Maker 3's adventure mode is that the average level quality will surely be a lot better this time around, since a lot more levels are going to be made specifically for a world mode. Hopefully tags will also be a lot better, so that levels that are not meant to be played in a world, i.e. levels without star coins, 1-ups, and non-adventure friendly level types like Troll, Gimmick, Auto, will never be selected to be in the adventure mode. I'm sure the skip button will still need to exist, but at the very least it hopefully won't be needed as often. Okay, so now that we've talked about what the main structure of the game is going to look like, what else is Mario Maker 3 going to add, remove, or change to Mario Maker 2? As I mentioned, the things that Nintendo added in the transition between Mario Maker 1 and 2 were done for 2 main reasons. Firstly, to fill some unfinished parts of Mario Maker 1, and secondly, just to make the game completely stand out from its predecessor. This included things as substantial as the entire 3D world style, and Mario Maker 3 is undoubtedly going to add things like that for the same reason. So what's on the menu in Mario Maker 3? Let's start off with level styles. Mario Maker 2 added 4 more level styles over Mario Maker 1: sand, snow, jungle, and sky. And while this definitely adds to the catalog, I still think there's still a few that could be added. The biggest ones I can think of are beach, volcano, mountain, and tower. Beach is the most obvious one, as every new Super Mario Bros. Game has some kind of beach world. Something that I always thought was a little strange in Mario Maker 2 was that the jungle theme was given water. I mean, it made sense in that the night theme would turn water into poison, but water fits a lot more with a beach theme rather than the jungle. Volcano makes sense, especially with a worlds-focused game, since you can't expect everyone to make a Fiery World 8 without something other than castle. Mountain is a questionable one, as it's not too dissimilar from Sky, but again, almost every new Super Mario Bros. Game has a mountain world. Tower is another one that I think really fits for a worlds-focused game. Towers are always the midpoint of new Super Mario Bros. Worlds containing a mini-boss. They're a nice mood shift from castle levels, with the music being much less intense and the lack of lava. However, a problem with this is that towers always have a vertical design. Calling it a tower when you can give it a horizontal design wouldn't really make sense at all. The way to beat a tower also isn't something that really works for Mario Maker. They were able to bring the axe from the original Super Mario Bros. As the flagpole for castle levels, but tower levels have never had anything like that. It's just when you kill the mini-boss that the tower levels end, so I'm not sure how they translate that into Mario Maker, but I'm pretty sure they could figure out a way to do it. Something else I feel like they could do is add aesthetic variations for each level style, an addition that I think a fully fleshed out world mode would really benefit from. For example, I sometimes wish I could make a level in an underground desert aesthetic or underground ice, like you see sometimes in the new Super Mario Bros. Games. In Mario Maker 2, the only way to sort of mimic this is to use the semi-solid platforms as background walls, which is super annoying to do since they aren't really meant to be used in that way. This goes for making any sort of background decoration. Semi-solids are terrible, so another thing they could add is a background wall tool. That would be awesome. But more level variations would also be awesome, like outside ghost house, underground volcano, water being a toggleable addition in the underground and ground styles, different castle styles that aren't necessarily lava themed, water levels where there's a little bit of sky at the top. In my opinion, aesthetic variety is just as important as gameplay variety, and especially so in a world setting. One of the things I absolutely hate about Mario Maker 2 is the night variants for each level, simply because they bundle the nighttime gameplay changes with the nighttime music and aesthetics. I want to make a daytime jungle level with poison, inspired off of nearly every jungle level you play in New Super Mario Bros. However, in order to have poison in the jungle, you have to switch it to nighttime, which gives the level this, in my opinion, very ugly starry background, shades everything with a bluish hue, and changes every instrument of the song into a music box. I get the gimmick, but I really wish, for example, that I could make a poison level or use the ice tiles without the nighttime aesthetic. I realize that a lot of this stuff is a lot more of a problem in the new Super Mario Bros. Style than it is for the other three retro styles. Aesthetic variation is a lot more important for the new Super Mario Bros. Style, since the older styles' pixelated aesthetics are so simple that not much could or should be done to add variation. But because the new Super Mario Bros. Style is connected so stringently with the three really old styles, there has to be that balance between not adding too much to the older styles that are reaching their creative limits, and not making the new Super Mario Bros. Style feel really incomplete in comparison to its actual games. In fact, with that said, it's quite crazy looking back on it that they decided to tie the new Super Mario Bros. Style, one that began in the mid-2000s and only reached its final rendition in the early 2010s, to the three Mario games that were released in the mid to late 80s. It makes sense why they did it for Mario Maker 1, the concept of extra game styles wasn't even considered yet, and the trick of being able to turn an entire level into a completely different Mario game, from 1985's Super Mario Bros. To 2012's new Super Mario Bros. U with one button was a really cool idea. But going into Mario Maker 2 and 3, when you are now running out of things from the older games to bring into those styles, and still have a bunch of things to choose from all of the new Super Mario Bros. Games, that original decision to tie them together just doesn't make much sense anymore. I think Super Mario Maker 3 would actually really benefit from completely removing the new Super Mario Bros. Style from the three older game styles, as it would give the developers a lot more freedom in bringing over all of the neat things from New Super Mario Bros., all four games, without necessarily having to backport all of it to Super Mario World, Mario 3, and Super Mario Bros. The thing is, being able to translate your level between game styles, while it's cool in concept, is not that important of an ability. Game mechanics are already so different between the older games that it makes most levels not even work in different styles, and when you're designing a level, you always decide which game style you're going to go with before you get really deep into it. It looks like they already realized this with the 3D world style, which was probably conceptualized with the idea of having it also be linked to the other 4 game styles before they eventually realized that it would never work, but also that it didn't really matter. So with that concept in mind, the idea of the new Super Mario Bros. Style becoming a standalone game style, what does this give them the freedom to add from the new Super Mario Bros. Games? Well, I already said that more aesthetic variation would be great, as well as the removal of night themes. You know, I think some of it is cool, I think some of it is not, maybe just an overhaul of the system. So for example, you aren't forced to make the level night in order to use the ice tile set. In terms of power-ups, the Ice Flower and Penguin suits are great, especially for water levels, and if Mario Maker 3 brings in the beach theme, not to mention potentially letting you put water in other level themes, these power-ups would be perfect. Mini Mushroom and Mega Mushroom? Maybe? Mini Mushroom for sure has to have somewhat of a chance, with it appearing in every new Super Mario Bros. Game, even New Super Mario Bros. DS. It would for sure be a power-up that's reserved for the new Super Mario Bros. Style, just like the propeller suit. This would also bring in little pipes and half blocks, giving even more options for hiding secrets. And like the penguin and ice power-ups, it helps add gameplay variety to the water, where being little lets you run on top. The gold flower from New Super Mario Bros. 2, whose golden fireballs turn everything into coins, would be a great way to further promote the collection of coins and lives. For enemies, let's first start with the ones that would be added for the new level styles I suggested. For beach, porca puffers, urchins, and or clams. For volcano, fire snakes and fire bros. Mountain would already have its Monty Moles, Rocky Wrenches, Chain Chomps, and Bullet Bills, but spikes could get their third variant, Stone Spikes. And the only thing I could really think of for tower are amps. General enemies for the new Super Mario Bros. Style, Ice and Boomerang Bros, Fuzzies, Swoops, Bramballs, Flame Chomps, Bruisers, Scuttlebugs, Spiny Cheep Cheeps, Yellow Cheep Cheeps, Womps. The list goes on and on. Can't you see how much stuff there is left waiting in these games? There could be tons of mechanics brought from the new Super Mario Bros. Games into Mario Maker. Invisible walls, which give more options for secrets, invisible coins, coins that appear when close, coins that dance or move, blue coin P-switches, red coin hoops. Trees would be a nice aesthetic tool. I know a lot of people, including myself, like using the green mushrooms with vines to create makeshift trees, so just having a tree tool would be nice. Something interesting that could be a really useful tool for more advanced makers is some control over how zoomed in the camera is. I noticed when playing the new Super Mario Bros. Games that the camera is constantly zooming in and out, or some rooms just have a more zoomed out camera. It's not something you really think about, but having some variance in how much the game lets you see is really important. It makes the gameplay feel more interesting, and the amount of new designs that could be opened up with having a wider camera view, or even a slightly smaller one, would be insane. Now, I'm not really sure how they'd implement this. It sounds pretty complicated, probably half the reason why they haven't done it yet. You also, of course, always run into the problem of makers using it in completely the wrong ways. So it's just a thought, but I think this would be really cool. And while we're on the topic of game styles, what new game style could they add to the third game other than possibly expanding on the new Super Mario Bros. Style? Another extra game style seems obvious, and Super Mario Wonder is a game that seems almost designed with the eventual destiny of filling that empty space next to 3D World. As with every game style, Wonder has a few unique power-ups, namely the Elephant Fruit, Bubble Flower, and Drill Shroom. I'm not gonna go into every little aspect of Wonder that would translate into Mario Maker 3. Since it would be an extra game style, there'd be entirely too much to talk about. What I will say though is that Wonder is a particularly gorgeous game, one that I think suits Mario Maker so much more than 3D World does. So I'm really looking forward to the chance to make levels in that style. But aside from Wonder, could there be any other extra game styles? The fact that they turned 3D World, a 3-dimensional game, into a 2D style puts a lot of weird potential on the table, but since 3D World is still a level-based game, When other 3D Mario titles like Galaxy and Odyssey aren't, I don't think we'll be seeing those games brought to Mario Maker. And no, I don't think that there's any chance of getting a 3D Maker. Most people already can't wrap their heads around the simple idea of a secret 1-up, so you can imagine how much garbage you'd find in a much more complicated 3D Maker. So what about other retro styles? Well, how many 2D Mario games even are there to choose from? Super Mario Bros. 2 is already fairly represented in the game, with the power-up that is dedicated to bringing the core Super Mario 2 experience, without having to include an entirely new style. The game itself, though I've never played it, looks like it's missing a lot of features that would make up an entire style. Not to mention that it shares a lot of sprites with the game that came right after it, Super Mario Bros. 3. So the only game that I think has a slight chance of actually making it into Super Mario Maker 3 as a new retro style is my personal favorite 2D Mario game, New Super Mario Bros. DS. This game, while it shares the New Super Mario Bros. Name, is really nothing like the game already featured in Mario Maker, New Super Mario Bros. U. New Super Mario Bros. Wii, 2, and U are all very similar to each other in terms of visual design, sound design, and gameplay, but New Super Mario Bros. DS is actually quite the oddball among the series. Its visual design, though it uses some 3D models, is still pixelated due to the hardware limitations of the DS, giving it a very different look from the games that came after it. The physics and mechanics feel a lot different. There's no twirling, for example. The sound effects and the music are all unique to the game. When the 3 games that came after this one pretty much share the same ones. There's so many enemies that are completely unique to this game. Kabombs, Marays, Sushi, Squigglers, Blockhoppers, Spike Bass, Snailicorns, Skeeters. The game has a unique power-up, which also happens to be one of the most fun in the series, the Blue Shell. It's the game that bridged the gap between old 2D Mario and new 2D Mario, a bridge that is completely missing within Mario Maker's chosen game styles, where it goes from 1990's Super Mario World all the way to 2012's New Super Mario Bros. U. So if they're going to add another retro style, perhaps to fill the gap left behind by the New Super Mario Bros. U style becoming independent, then I think that New Super Mario Bros. DS would be the perfect option. It would personally be a dream come true if I could make levels out of the New Super Mario Bros. DS style, because it's the 2D Mario game that I grew up on, and the first Mario game that I ever played, which I also know goes for a lot of kids born in the early 2000s. Sure, the visual style of the game was still very experimental, and was held back even for its time due to it being a handheld console exclusive. So even though the game is special to me and many others, it might not be so much to Nintendo. We'll just have to see come the announcement of Mario Maker 3. So what else is there to talk about? To recap so far, we've talked about how the game's main structure could revolve around the complete expansion of Super Worlds. This includes new maker tools like secret exits and star coins. We've talked about the possible expansion or complete overhaul of the New Super Mario Bros. U style, allowing for the addition of tons of different things from all of those games that were being held back by the style's connection to the older styles. We've talked about new level styles, beach, volcano, mountain, and tower, as well as the enemies that would come with those styles. We've talked about new game styles, the most obvious one being Super Mario Wonder, and the possible, though probably unlikely, new Super Mario Bros. DS style. So the last thing to talk about, the one other biggest thing about Mario Maker 2 that needs to be addressed going into Mario Maker 3 is the UI. The Maker UI of Mario Maker 2 is really bad. It's a large part of why a lot of people weren't able to get that into Mario Maker, because it's just not that fun to make levels. The little wheels that you select your tools off of are really annoying to use, especially compared to how it worked in Mario Maker 1, which just gave you every single tool on a single page. Dragging your cursor around at sluggish speeds to place things is really awful. Only having a 1-block size brush, or a limit on the amount of things you're allowed to select at one time, not being able to zoom out and still edit, and having all of this UI constantly blocking so many things from view. There are a lot of things that Nintendo needs to fix about their Maker UI, some of which could easily just be retconned from the first Mario Maker, with its tool selection, for example. With this third Mario Maker being possibly Switch 2 exclusive, mouse controls with the Switch 2 Joy-Cons is possibly one of the best things that they could add into this game. In fact, I think the only reason why they haven't already added mouse controls to Mario Maker 2 is because they're saving it for the next game. A level editor is simply just not something you should be doing with a joystick. It's just not. So mouse controls would be excellent. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Hopefully when Mario Maker 3 comes out, it'll be much more enjoyable to make levels with it than it has been for the last 2 games. And with that, that's all of the things I can see being added and improved on in Super Mario Maker 3. I am really excited for this game. The Mario Maker games are always such just fun community experiences, making levels, playing levels. And then you have things like the multiplayer versus leaderboards, ninja speedruns, watching people experiment and glitch hunt and do no-skip runs. And of course, this game will bring a full new flavor to the Mario Maker experience, with its hopefully fleshed out Worlds mode. Again, we still technically don't know for sure if this game is even close to being finished. It has been 6 years since Mario Maker 2 came out, over 2 years now since Super Mario Wonder came out. The Switch 2 is still in dire need for some popular titles, so hopefully we get Mario Maker 3 before too long. If there's anything you'd personally like to see in a Mario Maker 3 that I forgot to talk about in this video, then write about it in the comments below. I will now direct those of you who have not seen it to this video by Steve Gaming, which goes really far into depth on why Mario Maker 3 is going to exist. So go watch that if you haven't. And hey, if you like this video, then subscribe. If we do get a Mario Maker 3 anytime soon, you can bet your that I'm going to make videos on it. But that's it from me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.